I baked yesterday. Yesterday I made carrot almond strudel, sourdough bread, and a bacon and cheese and herb loaf. So I did a lot of baking yesterday. I do sourdough too. I'll show you my starter after, but 7 years old. So the way you shape them is you just take it in your hand. You put a little bit of flour on your fingers so it doesn't stick. You stick your thumb in the middle and you just slowly press your thumb in and start to make a hole in the middle of the dough. And once your thumb comes out the other side, you just keep shaping it a little bit until you end up with a bagel or a donut, as the case may be. So that goes on there. This is why I did some before, because this bit's a bit tedious and boring. And it's important to keep a bit of flour on your hands, which is why I use that little shaker, otherwise you end up with flour all over the kitchen, and then Ruth has to vacuum up. No, she doesn't, I do. Just kidding. I only say that because she's in the lounge and can't hear me.
Really?
Oh, yes, she can. She just said, really. But if I'd asked her to do something, she'd never be able to hear me, you know? So, she's just gone off. I think I'm in trouble, people. So there we go. That's the 3 of them done. Now, the next process, just bear with me while I move the computer closer, because now I'm going to walk away over to another part of the kitchen, where I have a pot of water boiling away. So you just simply take it, drop it in, and I do 2 at a time. You drop them in and they sink a little bit, and when they float, you let it boil on one side for 2 minutes, turn it over and let it boil for another 2 minutes on the other side. If you want them harder, you boil them longer. I like them a bit softer, so I just do 2 minutes, and my 2 minutes is a real guess. The only thing I don't guess with, I only bake them for 20 minutes, because that seems to work really well. Once I've boiled them, they go back onto the baking paper, and then I brush them with raw egg all over just one side and the top and the sides, and I'll sprinkle them either with sesame seeds or poppy seeds. And that's what they come out looking like once you've baked them. Better than bought ones, and cheaper too. So I'll probably never buy bagels again now. I'm taking orders for Christmas too, just by the way. Can you put fruit in them? Well, I don't know, you need to ask the original. It's a Jewish peasant food, is bagels. I'm not sure whether you can make them. I've got a mate who's Japanese who used to work for a well-known Jewish catering company, and I asked him about it, and they used to do a couple of different things. Sometimes they put fresh lemon juice in instead of water, orange juice, sorry, just to give them a different flavour, but no talk of fruit on them. And also they used to do little ones with no holes that you could use for finger food. You could split them and put things on top of them and have them as finger food. And that way you just take small bits of dough, roll it, boil it, bake it, and they'd be much smaller. But I don't think I've ever seen a sweet bagel apart from the ones they put orange juice in. So, all right. So they're floating. Well, so now I'll just turn it over. And twiddle my thumbs. For Welsh Church. So is that a yes? I don't know. I've never seen them with fruit in, but I suppose you could. I don't know how the fruit would go when you threw it in the boiling water though. I'm not sure. With yeast doughs, you've got to be really careful. If fruit's got moisture in it, you'd probably have to adjust how dry or wet your dough is, because bread dough is really fickly like that. If you don't do it right, it stuffs up really quickly. I said I'd show you my sourdough starter. That's my sourdough starter that I got from a cousin. She's had it 7 years. and it's her nonna's recipe. And she sent me some in the mail that was probably a tablespoon, and I've grown it to be that much by just adding flour and water once a week to it and stirring it. So that's got no yeast in it. It's what they call wild yeast, which naturally occurs in flour. All right, I reckon that's been around 2 minutes. Excuse me. One's out, another one in. One's out. Now, I brush it with the Rory. So I'll do.
Bubba, how long do they keep?
Sorry?
How long do
Best
they
to
keep?
over a couple of days. I wouldn't keep them much longer than a couple of days. You can freeze them, but they're not exactly the same. They're sort of a cook and eat thing, I find. But you can keep them for a couple of days. Or if you're my mother, a month. No, I don't think my mother's ever had a bagel. So that was just a stupid throwaway comment that I made. You can't rush these things, as we all know with baking. There are no shortcuts often. Well, you can, but it stuffs things up. And one thing we all have in COVID is time. My sourdough, I start at 4 o'clock in the afternoon and it gets baked the next morning. So it sits and what they don't call it proving. There's another word that they use for sourdough and I can't remember what it is. But it sits overnight in a proving basket and then goes on. I use I've got a pizza stone. I've got a slab of marble that I bake everything on that goes into the oven because it gives you more even heat. It's in the oven all the time. So all our pizzas, all our bread, all starts off on baking paper on the slab. And then as it cooks, I slip it off the baking paper and let the stone do the cooking. So we do that. Flip. They're really nice bagels. My favourite bagel is sour cream, cream cheese, bacon, smoked salmon, capers, and red onion. Terrible things. Ruth and I have done a few cruises, and we're on one cruise, and I couldn't find the smoked salmon at the breakfast bar, so I just asked one of the staff, and they ran off, and they must have come back with I don't know how much salmon it was, but there was a pile of it. So we didn't have lunch that day. We just had bagels, cream cheese, red onion, and capers on bagels for breakfast and lunch. Sort of just rolled one into the other, really. Bacon's also really good on them. Jam's really good. Cream cheese by itself. I don't know what else. What do you like with them, Sarah?
I'm a traditionalist. I like cream cheese or butter and jam.
Yep. Sean, what do you have on yours?
I also don't put anything on mine. I'm not an everything bagel kind of person. I want mine plain.
I put cream cheese and jam.
My mother once said she went on a bit of a diet, as was mum's wont from time to time. And she said to one of my brother-in-laws in the morning, I get up in the morning and I have 2 pieces of toast with nothing on. And he goes, well, I hope you're not standing in front of the window. And same thing, raw egg. Oh. And sesame seeds, because I just spilled egg in the poppy seeds. Then this is the tricky bit. take the stone out there. Put them onto there. And pop them in, and they'll be ready in 20 minutes exactly. So at just before 2:45, the last 3 will come out of the oven. Now I'll cut one open and show you. That's what they look like in the middle, all nummy. And now I'll go to the fridge. I don't know whether I've shown you this before. Ruth and I had the privilege of going to Finland some years ago. That is a Finnish butter knife. And as Atticus reminds me, it's not made of butter, it's for spreading butter. So it's a wooden knife for spreading butter. And the cream cheese and trust me, this is good.
Can you stop recording now, Sarah? That's just gross.
So there we go. A peasant Jewish dish that we've turned into a money-making. It's funny how we've done that with peasant dishes, isn't it?